lets it fly. He throws it!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 407 podcast. This is episode 3. We are back at it again. I'm Mills, here with Justin.
Hello.
And before we start anything, we want to thank you guys so much. We hit 70 subscribers on YouTube and over 850 channel views. Episode 2 by itself has over 650 views now, and that's just insane. We really appreciate all the support that you guys have shown us. We're growing super fast, and it's really cool to see that there are a bunch of Magic fans craving some content covering the team, just like we were before we created this podcast.
Just a little shout out and some love for our social media followers. We're currently at 390 on Instagram, as well as 96 on Twitter. So again, we just can't say it enough. Thank you guys so much for following. We're so excited to get involved with the conversation. We love this Magic community, and we can't wait to have more of you guys on the show.
Yes, definitely what he said. So topics for today's pod, we have a short pod today. We're just going to be recapping basically free agency for the Orlando Magic. But we'll talk about some returning people. We'll talk about some new faces. And then we have a little bonus segment talking about some 2K ratings. So starting out with the returning guys, since we're a little more familiar with them, we brought back Gary Clark, James Ennis, and Michael Carter-Williams. So if you want to start with Gary Clark.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start off with Gary Clark. Gary Clark started a couple games for us at the 4. A lot of people were pretty confused, had no idea who Gary Clark was, but he did have a bunch of really great moments for the team. Very, very cheap re-signing. Not mad about that one at all. However, I think James Ennis and then Michael Carter-Williams to finish out. Though both of those are much better signings for us, but James Ennis, much needed shooter to play the 3 and the 4. I definitely think he's going to have an improvement this year. Looked good in a few minutes last season, but I'm also excited to see Alfredo Aminu play at the 4 as well as a little bit of the 3. Didn't get to see anything from him last year due to injury, so it's basically a bunch of new players on our bench. Really excited to see how they've been working out over the offseason. But finally, Michael Carter-Williams, definitely one of my favorite players on this team, criminally underrated by everybody in this league. This man is one of the best hustlers, grinders, fantastic defense, and I think he's going to fit in absolutely fine at the 5 this season. Not the 5, as the 5th guard on the team. I do see Markelle Fultz starting with Cole Anthony, and then right behind them is going to be Terrence Ross. So I'm not too sure how many minutes he's going to be getting, but Michael Carter-Williams, any type of money you needed to get him back on this team, awesome signing. Over to you, Mills. What do you think about these 3 returning players?
Yeah, so starting with Clark, he kind of played a pivotal role at the end of the year. He only played in 24 games and only started in 5, and he didn't really put up anything numbers-wise. But he definitely came in clutch to help us out when injuries were a really big factor there at the end of the year, in the bubble, and then in the playoffs. He played better as the season progressed, and he played his best basketball in the playoffs, and he was shooting 35% in the season and almost 40% in the playoffs. So definitely doing better there and getting more comfortable with the team, which is a good sign. I think he'll play more kind of that 2-3 range, probably more in the 3 with our limited small forward depth with really just Chuma Okeke and him. And I really do think it was a cheaper option than a lot of outside hires that they could have done. So it makes sense that they offered him that qualifying offer. Then moving on to Ennis, we definitely needed to bring Ennis back. He started many games for us at the end of the year. I think I have it here. Started in 18 games, so a nice chunk of the season. Obviously shorter season because of COVID, but he's probably going to start in the 3 come game 1. I just don't think Chuma's ready yet, and I do think that Ennis was a little more proven than Gary Clark. He averaged 8.5 points and 4.8 rebounds during his time with the Magic this year, and he definitely helped to fill in for Jonathan Isaac during the bubble and playoffs. And then finally, Michael Carter-Williams. I don't think any Magic fans thought that we would let him slip away. I thought a lot of people knew that he was coming back. Steve Clifford just simply loves the guy. Like you said, he plays physical, he plays confident. He has a really aggressive play style with an emphasis on defense, which I think he reminds Steve Clifford a little bit of Jonathan Isaac in that way. He's not nearly as talented or doesn't have nearly the potential, but he's just all over the place on the court. Averaged 7.2 points, 3.3 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.1 steals. Just that aggressive play style and that defensive play. I think he's a really scrappy player and a really good kind of backup guard to bring back.
I think one thing really interesting to note about Michael Carter-Williams, and I think he brings in parts of some of our best players on this team, whether it's Markelle Fultz and his athleticism, his speed getting up and down the court, not to mention his history going as high up in the draft, nobody wanting him thinking he's a bust, to like Evan Fournier and Terrence Ross, and the way he can just catch on fire. Whether it's not really through shooting, if he has a couple back-to-back steals, getting up and down the floor, going coast to coast, he has a little bit of them in that. And then finishing off with Jonathan Isaac, his length, the length at point guard for Michael Carter-Williams is just insane. I'm very happy to have him back. I don't know many Magic fans that dislike Michael Carter-Williams, so it's definitely going to be nice to have him back on this team.
Yeah, definitely length is a good point. He can guard the 1 through 3, so that's definitely going to be very useful for him. So yeah, let's move over to the new guys on the block. So the first guy, the main signing, and really the only signing that's going to be on the team the whole year is Dwayne Bacon, coming over from Charlotte. Certainly no one was expecting this signing or honestly hoping for this signing. But nevertheless, it is who we got, so let's talk about him. What are your thoughts about Dwayne Bacon?
I think Dwayne Bacon is an awesome fit on this team. I'd hate to just be always optimistic, not really saying anything negative about what we're doing. But I definitely see Dwayne Bacon as someone who's played for Clifford, played with Jonathan Isaac, as well as even played with Cole Anthony back at Oak Hill. They also went through the Steve Smith coaching process there. So they are a good show of character. They're a great athlete. And I really am excited for Dwayne Bacon. I think he really hasn't shown his prime. He hasn't shown the max of his ability. He hasn't had too many opportunities. And see him coming off, whether he's going to be the 4th, 5th, 6th point guard, even sliding down to play a little bit of the 3 due to his size. I think Dwayne Bacon's a really cool person to take, I don't know, small contract for 2 years. I think it's really cool, great window to see what he becomes. Maybe Chuma's not ready. Maybe Dwayne Bacon shows something preseason. He could slide into the 1-2 backup at small forward. So I'm excited to see Dwayne Bacon. I think he's a good character. He meshes well with the coach and the team.
Yeah, I think definitely the most popular aspects or the reasons why they wanted to bring him in, the familiarity with Clifford for sure, and then that cheapness. I mean, we got him for a minimum for 2 years, and the Magic did not have much cap space to go around. So definitely those would be the 2 reasons for me. Kind of like what you said about potential. I kind of see it about kind of like a glass half full, glass half empty approach, because looking at his stats the last 2 years. So last year he played pretty poorly, and this is kind of the stats you'll see kind of on Bleacher Report or wherever when people are talking about him. He shot, they'll highlight that he shot 28% from 3, which is not good. Those are Markelle numbers. And then he shot 34%, just his overall field goal percentage. So both of those are not good. And then averaging 5.7 points. So then you go back 1 year, he was averaging 7.3 points. He was shooting 43% from 3, and he was shooting 47% as his overall field goal percentage. And then you look at, like, okay, well, maybe he wasn't playing in as many games. He played in more games and started more games. So looking at that sample size, you can see that the potential is there. Like, he was a solid role player and a solid backup, even starting in 13 games last year, or the year before last year. So he kind of fell from grace and kind of regressed a little bit, and that could be kind of nerve-wracking for a lot of people. Again, we got him on the minimum, so it's not like it's a big risk. But if he could get back to his true form, get back to his play in the 18-19 season, then it could end up being a pretty nice steal for the Magic. So definitely a glass half full, glass half empty sort of deal. The potential is definitely there, but it's really going to be kind of a wait and see situation with Dwayne Bacon.
Now to round out the roster, we do have 2 completely brand new players turning up on this team that are going to be our 2-way players, being Kareem Mane, not too sure how to say his name, and Jordan Bone. Interesting to see 2 different point guard shooting guards join the team in the 2-way role. I'm definitely going to miss Josh Majette, also BJ Johnson. Awesome players to see in Lakeland. Me and Mills caught a game down there against the Skyhawks. It was opening night. Awesome time seeing that team play. But I'm excited about both of these. Kareem Mane. We're going to go with Maine. He was a 5-star from Canada. Absolutely didn't want to go the college route. Jumped right into the G League. He's going to be starting off with Lakeland. And I think he's a huge steal. Nobody really knows too much about him. Seen a couple of hoop mixtapes, heard a little bit about him. And I think that's a great steal for the Magic to have in this two-way spot. You never know with injuries popping up. Maybe he could find himself on the bench, show something off in the NBA. But having him in the G League, he might tear it up. Definitely someone to take a nice little risk on, and the risk is not big at all. Jordan
Yeah.
Bone is someone that I'm a big fan of. I'll just finish off, and I'll let you go ahead on both of them.
Go ahead.
Bone was the point guard for that Tennessee team. I'm a huge college basketball fan, by the way. Jordan Bone was the point guard for that huge Tennessee basketball revival when he had Admiral Schofield, as well as who else was on that team, Mills? That Tennessee team 2 years ago that gave a big run for the money.
Oh, I would know.
It was Admiral Schofield. There was one other major star. Comment below in the YouTube if you guys are watching this. That was a really good Tennessee basketball team. They had 3 guys that are still right now in the NBA G League on that starting roster. So that's another good person to watch down there in Lakeland. I'm not too sure how that team is going to fill out as well as their season schedule due to COVID. But, yeah, nice to highlight the two-way players we have.
Yeah, something to add to Jordan Bone. He was averaging 5.8 assists in his final year at Tennessee, so definitely likes to get other players involved, and that's a nice number there. Also shooting like 36% from 3, so definitely an interesting prospect. Kareem Mane, I'll go with Mane too. I don't quite know how to pronounce that, but we'll go with Mane just for the purpose of this video. He's only 20 years old, born a month after me, so young dude, 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So much potential with this kid. You mentioned the highlights and the little mixtapes he's got out, but you should go see those if you haven't seen them. They are incredible. He just lights up the tape. He competed in the FIBA Cup, under 19 FIBA Cup in Greece, where Canada finished 9th, and he averaged 11.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. But he was on a team with, a bunch of crazy people. He has tons of potential, and I'm really excited to see him play in Lakeland. I think he's going to make the RG League team very competitive and is going to push for a roster spot come next year. So I definitely think it's a low-risk move that has a ton of upside. Probably more so than Bone, but both of those guys are going to contribute right now to the G League team and then hopefully push for a roster spot.
I just want to correct myself. That last player I couldn't seem to mention for Tennessee was Grant Williams. Shout out to G. Will. Awesome player to have on the bench for the Boston Celtics, my team. But other than that, that Tennessee team actually had 8 players that are either in the NBA or G League right now, and Jordan Bone was the point guard for that team. So awesome add on the back. Nobody's really going to be talking about him too much, but I am pretty sure he's going to be a great piece to have in Lakeland.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk a little bit about the Magic's plan. Why did they not go after anybody big, number one? Why did they not go after anybody serviceable that could kind of hop in as a starter? And then why did they really only target 3 new people? And really only 1 new person who's actually going to be on the team for the whole year. So my understanding with that is a couple things. So number one, Weltman had limited options given the team's cap situation. So they have negative $14 million in actual cap space, but they have around $9 million in luxury tax cap space. So that means they could spend that $9 million if they want to, but then they're going to reach that kind of like hard cap where the owner is paying a ridiculous amount of money for every dollar they go over the salary cap. And then also the state of the team. You have 2 heavily involved rookies, hopefully heavily involved rookies, in Anthony and Okiki this year. So you really got to see what you have in them. And then we need to develop these young players that we have like Fultz and Bamba. And then also Jonathan Isaac is out for the entire year. So this is kind of like a bridge year to get Jonathan Isaac back. And I feel like once that happens next year and we've kind of assessed what we have in this young core, we kind of can hit the ground running and really determine what we're going to do as far as this kind of mini rebuild is going to happen.
Yeah, great points. Free agency was very familiar to Magic fans. Really no big moves, no surprises. They pretty much plan on carrying a similar roster to last season. which is completely contradictory to all those rumors we heard as the Magic are looking to overhaul. The Magic are looking to go young. We did not see that happen. Magic fans are not exactly excited or happy to see the front office disregarding a bunch of different notable players in free agency. And my idea is, after seeing everything that went for people like Jrue Holiday, Chris Paul, everybody should have been offered for the Magic to get 3 first-round picks and maybe a couple backup bench pieces if they truly want to rebuild and go young. So definitely it's really up in the air. A lot of people are unhappy. Some people are pretty happy with getting Cole Anthony, and they'll settle for that. But yeah, exactly what Mills just said. It was the cap space holding everybody back. But one thing that everybody does need to keep in mind is we really did get or did have or going to have a bunch of new players on this Magic team. Alfred Camino didn't play. James Ennis and Gary Clark are going to get more minutes this year. I think they're both going to have a big step up, as well as Cole Anthony joining this team. I think there's going to be a bunch of different people, a bunch of different looks out there. I think it's going to be a little different of a team. A lot of same names. Dwayne Bacon might end up getting a big role on this team. You never know. But I do expect a huge bump from Mo Bamba. I think he's been working out. We saw him gain a ton of weight going into the bubble last year. And I'm very excited for this team. Last episode, we highlighted where we thought they'd finish. Mills and I both said 7th, 8th, maybe not even making the playoffs. But I do think this is going to be a competitive team. Atlanta is going to be very good. We saw them make a bunch more moves since we made our last podcast. But yeah, I 100% agree with Mills. This season is really going to be a test. Who's going to fit, who's going to work for when Jonathan Isaac gets back, and we truly have this young core. So maybe we're going to see a huge move, like everybody's been saying, go young soon, maybe a couple games into the season, maybe right at the trade deadline. But then again, losing Jonathan Isaac for this whole year, this is really a test year. Contracts are going to be given out at the end of the year. Maybe Fournier stays. I know the fans don't want that. Maybe Aaron Gordon gets his huge extension. We have no clue. So it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of that has to do on their record come the deadline. So I think if the team is going to get blown up, it'll be kind of around the deadline. And if, they're not winning as many games as they would like. I think the reason why it didn't get blown up is because they've been a playoff team the past 2 years. So it's kind of hard. I mean, I understand that it's the 8 seed, 7 seed. It's not really, you're not really a great team in the league, but it's still hard for a team that just got to the playoffs after a 7-year playoff drought to just blow everything up and start all over again. So I think they want to kind of stay where they are, assess, see what they're going to be, and then come the next, couple of years, they'll try and figure it out. One player you mentioned, Bamba. We need to see Bamba play this year. Bamba has had extremely limited minutes, and we will never know what we have in Mo Bamba until he plays. So that's definitely a big part of this upcoming season is, can we find out if Mohamed Bamba can turn into that star that we drafted him to be, and if he can really take over the role of Vooch. So I think that all those things combined are really what the Magic are looking for coming into this season. We'll see what happens. It's an unlikely but possible scenario that they start off really strong, and then we'll probably be buyers at the deadline instead of sellers, which probably a lot of Magic fans won't like, but it all depends on our record and how we're doing. I would imagine that Fournier gets moved at some point in the season just because this is most likely his last year here. And I really don't see them re-signing him. So unless you just want to let him walk in free agency, you want to get something for him while he's still of value. So we'll see how that goes. But anything else you want to add on before we move on to the bonus segment?
No, I'm good for the bonus segment. Let's have a little bit of fun to close out this 3rd episode.
All right. So do you have the ratings pull up, or do you want me to pull them up?
I do. I have
each other?
I have the NBA 2K21 free agency roster update with the Orlando Magic's overall roster. I'm going to go ahead and start it out with the guards. What do you think Markelle Fultz is rated in the game, and what do you think is a fair overall rating for him?
Okay, so I know in the last 2K, he was like a 78, like 78, 79, and I would hope that they would bump that up a little bit, given his really progressive play and how he kind of took charge of that Magic team and gave them a spark. So I would hope he breaks into the 80s, and I will say I won't say he goes super high, but let's just go 80, 81. I'll say 80.
Now, you are a Magic fan, so disappointment is definitely all around this team. No, he is actually a 77 in this most recent update.
Oh my God.
Which is, it's criminal. It's absolutely disgusting for what should have
That's
been.
horrible.
Yes, it's terrible for what should have been the comeback player of the year. They have his dunking at 75 overall when he can throw it down. 72%, 72 overall from the free throw line. I believe he's much better than that. But yeah, 77 is being the starting point guard. Not a great fit if you're a Magic Gaming player.
So he went down. That's crazy. Yeah, that criminal is a good way to describe that.
We also have Michael Carter-Williams at 76 and Cole Anthony at 72. Thoughts on those?
Yeah, Anthony makes sense. The rookies are usually low 70s. I remember Chuma last year he was in, I don't know if you remember, he was in 2K for like a week and then they took him out because of the injury, but he was like a 71, I think. So, yeah, rookies, especially like mid first round rookies are going to be kind of there. What did you say MCW was? 76?
He was a 76, which is just one below Markelle Fultz. And I definitely think their game is a little bit...
Yeah, no, I would hope that Markelle is 1 point or a little more than 1 point ahead of MCW. But no, that makes sense. I think DJ was 76 last year, so makes sense for a backup point guard.
I think that's very fair for him. I do believe Markelle Fultz should be right on an 80, 81, whereas I think even Cole Anthony should have received a 74, 75. But moving on to the shooting guards, Terrence Ross, as well as Evan Fournier. Do you have any guesses for both of them?
Ross, I'd say, I don't think he's in the 80s. I'd be surprised if he's in the 80s. I'll say 79 for Ross. Fournier, I think, is an 80 overall.
All right, well, you're dead on with Fournier. He is an 80 overall. Although he had a crazy good season last year, I still don't understand why Magic fans hate him. I don't like him as a career player, career Magic. I mean, I don't want him to stay here forever. But he had a great season last year for Evan Fournier numbers. And yes, correct, he is an 80 overall. I would like to see him around an 82. Whereas Terrence Ross, who just won over, he's a 78. And he's another player I think that should be pushing right around an 80, 79, 80, 81. Although he should be going up to a 90 when he catches on fire, as what happens all the time. Magic fans love to see that, the Human Torch.
Yeah, that's the thing with Ross is the consistency. That's what you're missing there. But Fournier makes sense. I mean, if they didn't raise Markelle's, then they weren't going to raise Fournier's, even though he did have his career best points per game, 18 points per game. So he did have a good season last year.
Now the biggest hole on the Magic roster is probably at small forward. Our starting small forward, likely out the gate, will be James Ennis III. Do you have any type of rating guess for him?
Oh, yikes. I don't even know. Like 74?
It is a 75. I think a 75 is bigger for him. Close. We have a 72 for Chuma Okeke, as well as a 70 for Dwayne Bacon. I'd like to see Okeke right around a 73, Dwayne Bacon right around a 74, although you did talk about his regression. I definitely think he's much better than a 70. But yeah, if you're going to be using the Magic in 2K, good luck at the small forward. I definitely recommend moving Aaron Gordon to that position to get you a little bit of help. Now for our power forwards, Aaron Gordon, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Gary Clark. Go ahead, Mills. What are your guesses?
Okay, so Al-Farouq Aminu, my guess is going to be a 74. Gary Clark, probably like a 72 or 73. I'll go 72. And then Aaron Gordon, I'm going to say an 82.
Very, very close on all those. Aminu and Gary Clark are both 75s. I think 75 is fair for Al-Farouq. Gary Clark is 75. That's
very surprising.
Crazy. That's crazy to me that he has only 2 less overall points than Markelle Fultz. So good for Gary Clark. If he ever listened to this podcast, 100% unlikely to ever happen. But good for you, Gary. Show us why you should be a 75. And Aaron Gordon's an 80 overall. So guessing the 2K makers and the 2K rating adjusters hate the Magic just as much as ESPN.
They hate the Magic. This is why this podcast needed to happen. Okay.
He is an 80 overall with a 95 dunk, which, okay, that's definitely agreeable. But he's much better than 75 from three-point, 55 from mid-range. That's mind-blowing that he's less from mid-range than the second-rounders coming out of this year's draft. Finishing off with the centers, can't be much worse than the rest of this roster so far. We have Vooch, as well as Khem Birch and Mo Bamba.
Vooch, well, based on everything that you've told me so far, I don't want to. I was gonna say like 86, but I don't think that's the case. Let's go 84. Let's play it safe.
Nikola Vucevic did have an 86. You're exactly
Oh
on
my
with that
god.
one. I think that one's
Okay.
fair. That's very fair for him. I've
Let,
always
wait,
been
let me guess Mo Bamba real quick before you tell me.
all right.
Mo Bamba is a 78.
I wish he is a 76.
Okay. 2K is really high on Mo Bamba. I don't know if you use Mo Bamba in 2K, but he is nasty in 2K.
If you ever play Blacktop, Mo Bamba, Taco Fall, and Bol Bol.
Oh
Dude, just go out there
god.
and run it. Taco Fall runs a 4-4 down the court. It's a great team to run out there in a 2K. And then Kem Birch. I wish this one was higher as well.
Oh god. Kim Birch 71.
He is a 72. So, yeah, if you're
Okay.
going to be playing with the Magic, good luck beating some of these powerhouse teams like the Lakers, the Nets, the Celtics, and the Bucks, as they did not look at the Magic roster very favorable preseason. But as we always see, the Magic team, I thought they were going to be terrible last year. They played very well. They went into the bubble. They got into the playoffs last 2 seasons. And I think these ratings will go up as the season goes on. I think this team will really show to have a bunch of good core role pieces for Isaac to come back to. And go ahead, Mills, wrap it up with your final takeaways for episode 3.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. I think Cole Anthony is going to bring a lot of hype to the Magic, a lot of media to the Magic. So hopefully that in turn affects 2K. I mean, I don't really care a whole lot about our 2K ratings, but I care about our public perception, and I feel like that's really lacking. So yeah, hopefully this year brings new things to the Magic, and hopefully it's a good year for basketball.
All right. Thank you so much for Mills and I joining us tonight. Thank you for listening to us as always. Thank you for subscribing, liking, following. It means absolutely so much to us. So thank you for being followers. We hope all this content means something to you. If you have any type of questions, want to join the show, leave it in the comments, slide into any of our DMs at any time. But once again, we've been the 407 podcast, and we look forward to bringing you more Orlando Magic podcasts and all things 407 as soon as possible. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys. Thanks for listening.